If you are playing Sorare on anything from a £1 budget to a £200 budget, this video should seriously help you. What I'm going to work on here is a strategy that you can implement right now. Maybe that will last across the whole year, where you can develop your team and develop your gallery to compete against much higher budget players. Now, it's important to note, some parts of this strategy guide will be very common. A lot of people will be doing them, but what we're going to do is take very slight divergence in strategy in certain areas that will help you beat your opposition doing the exact same thing. So for example, as a beginner, under £10 budget, you're gonna go and play the semi-pro leagues. There's the MLS semi-pro, there's the Premier League semi-pro, there's the Bundesliga semi-pro, La Liga. All of these different leagues all have a semi-pro division, and everyone on a low budget should start there. You can learn the scoring there, you can learn how the game works there, and you get a chance to win something. The problem with Sorare for beginners and low budget users is the fact that you can be competing against someone with 10x your budget and find it really difficult to compete. But in semi-pro, if you have more than 10 limited cards, you can't play. So this is an instant leveler that will help you compete very early on against people that are, on the same footing, probably similar budgets, and then you get a chance to compete and enjoy the game. But we're going to progress you through so that you're competing against people like me, and you might even beat me. So in the semi-pro leagues, you only need one card to play. So it can be 50p, it can be £1, or it can be £10. It really doesn't matter as long as your combined total gallery has less than 10 cards. So let's keep that in mind. But obviously, first we want to go out and buy a card that is going to work for this division. Now this will depend on your budget, of course. But if I was doing it and starting from scratch, I would go into my specific league, so I'm going to use the Premier League as the most popular example, and filter by their last 40 average on Sorare data. This will tell me all of the different cards that are playing, and you can see budget options like Jordan Bayer, and like, oh, he's only £18, and he would be the second best defender on the game. It's important to note, last averages will be the last 40 averages from their game. In Bayer's case, he was in the league below, he was in the championship, so we've got to ignore him. Essentially, you filter through all of these different cards until you find one that fits your budget and, is a relatively high average scorer, so you can play that card every single week. Perfect example from the Premier League for me. If you've got £15, Thiago Silva. He's one of the top 10 scorers on the game. He's £15. He's always going to play for Chelsea for at least the next season, and you can consistently roll him out. In the semi-pro division, whichever card you buy will get a 50% extra score added to his score. So it's really important that this card you do pick up plays consistently, scores well, and is essentially the best of your budget. Now, you've got to be very prudent with your budget here, because I wouldn't just play one semi-pro league. When you're starting off, obviously you want to have the maximum enjoyment as possible and try and learn as much as possible. So maybe you get 4 or 3 different cards that can fit into semi-pro teams. So you play the Premier League, the Bundesliga, La Liga, Serie A, just play them, and then you'll learn the game and you can develop from there. Hopefully you can pick up some rewards, and this is when we transition to the next step. The next step in this strategy is you move up from semi-pro to pro. So in this example, you can move up from the MLS semi-pro to the MLS pro, whichever league you are, specializing in. But what I want you to do when you are, confident enough to move up, when you've got the budget to move up, or when you've got the cards to move up because, you're forced out of the division because you've won more than 10 rewards, right? When you've done that, make sure you transition to 2 different pro leagues. I don't want more, I don't want less. So pick your 2 favorite leagues. If that's the Premier League and La Liga, or the Premier League and Serie A, I really don't care, whichever you know most about, or have the most enjoyment playing and watching. But it's crucial what we're going to do here, because now you're transitioning from just buying one card to buying a whole team. So you're becoming a real Sorare manager, and at that time, it's going to be a lot more difficult to compete against, Sorare managers that have been doing it longer. So how I would do it is playing 2 pro leagues and also get 2 teams, what's known in Sorare as stacks. Stacks are, players from the same team. In the pro leagues, very important to note, you get 1 common card still. So you only need 4 out of the normal 5 that you need. The 100% must-do option in this case is make sure you select a common goalkeeper when you're entering these teams. The reason for that, goalkeepers are far and away the most expensive cards on the platform because they're more scarce. So use a free goalkeeper, and your outfield players are where you can spend your money. Now remember, of course you can pick players from around the world of football, but what I'd advise is go out and get in a stack of 1 team. So for example, you could come and get an Athletic Club Bilbao. Why I pick Bilbao is I think they can score really highly, they're quite solid defensively, But, they're not a Bayern Munich. They're not a PSG where everyone's talking about them, everyone's buying them, and they're super expensive. You can get a starter like Danny Vivian here, last average score of 62 in his last game, and you can get him for £3. You can partner him up with his partner in crime, Paredes here. You can get him for £7. So together, £10, and you've got a defensive stack. And when they score well together, they'll both score well. So essentially, let's say you run whichever common goalkeeper you want, and you're going to pick 4 of your, whichever fits your budget players from whichever team you prefer, and you're just going to run that out every week. Now, some weeks are going to get beat, right? It's how the team does. They're all going to play from the same team. But some weeks are going to win 3-0 and you're going to pick up a really good reward. Then you can sell that and reinvest in more players. Why we're doing this with 2 teams is crucially important. Let's just say, for example, you're running a Brentford stack and an Atletico Bilbao stack. With them, you're consistently going to be earning rewards up until the point maybe you can actually afford a goalkeeper. Now, pick whichever one of the clubs you think has the better goalkeeper and is going to score better for that year. So now we're going to have at minimum 5 cards from one club and 4 cards from the other club. And on very particular weeks, rather than playing the Pro Leagues, you can enter them into Champion Europe Limited. Now, Champion Europe Limited is the best limited league on Sorare. So you can go out and check the prize pool where you can win $80 for first, you can check the star awards and you can win Erling Haaland, you can win Mbappe, you can win Kimmich, you can win Mike Mignan, all of the best, most expensive cards on Sorare. But you're going to be competing against people like me that have, £2,000 worth of limited cards, have played the game for, 2.5, 3 years now, and you're really going to struggle. Except you are only going to play the best, hardest league when it suits you. You should be consistently playing the Pro Leagues, but when both teams have a really good fixture, you can merge the best players into one team and you've got a chance to compete in Champion Europe Limited. Now, you may be thinking, well, I've only got 2 teams merged into one. Surely that's not a really elite strategy when, I'll still be competing against the best cards on the game. I'll be competing against PSG stacks, against Bayern Munich stacks. So yes, it will be very difficult to compete, but also keep in mind that they have a lot more risk involved. They've got a lot more players that they're trying to earn a return on. But what is key is this new collection update that Sorare have recently brought in. By the fact of you buying cards from just 2 of the same clubs, you're going to be able to get these extra 5% bonuses. Now, 5% is only when you collect a lot of the cards. You could be on a 3% bonus. But what this means is you have a 3% advantage on anyone not taking advantage of the collection bonus. And because you've just been following 2 teams for the last 6 months or however long it takes you to progress to this stage on Sorare, you're going to know about the clubs. You're going to know so in depth about the clubs that you've been monitoring. You understand rotation patterns. You're going to know who's a good sub that can come on. Plenty of these different options. Whereas these much bigger galleries like myself, they won't be focusing on this league. They'll just put whatever teams they can in, and they won't know rotation patterns. If someone's out injured, they might miss it. All of these different things that are going to giving you a little edge, because there's no easy way to compete with someone on 10 times your budget in any single sport, in any single game. It really doesn't matter, but you've got to make smart edges where you can try and gain a small advantage. So to recap where we're up to so far then, you start playing semi-pro as much as you can to your budget with 1 decent player from each team. Then you progress up to pro and you have 2 different clubs that you build stacks of that you're going to run every week until they both have really good fixtures. Then you can merge them into one to compete in Champion Europe. But there will be weeks where you have decent teams, but you don't think they're good enough to compete in Champion Europe, and that's when Cap 220 Limited comes in. So Cap 220 Limited is the same entry requirements as semi-pro, except for the fact, rather than using 270 cap, you're using 220 cap. So Cap 220 works maybe if you've been on a poor run of form in your cards. It's a little bit easier to win than semi-pro, but you can only enter it with a certain amount of cards. So this is where your real knowledge of just having 2 teams is going to help you. So who's got a really good fixture, but previously they had 4 tough fixtures, so all of their averages are poor. So this is how you start to build up these slight edges. It's learning about the clubs, it's knowing where to play your cards and when, and of course, which we haven't really touched on, getting good value budget players. And there really is no easy way to go out and find good value budget players, because if there was, they wouldn't be budget players anymore. Everyone would be buying them and they'd be expensive. So you're only going to come, into budget players by, subscribing to the channel and finding out when I put videos out like that, or any of the other Sorare content creators in the space, or just doing the research. Going onto Sorare data, scouting all of these different lineups, watching football, finding out who's on the bench, but he's only on the bench because he's recovering from an injury and soon he's going to be a star and scoring really well. All of these different things that make the game so much more enjoyable. There is actually one secret way where you can get players for nothing that are some of the best players on the game. All you have to do, subscribe to the channel and drop a comment down below. At the end of this year, I'll be drawing someone to win my Vinicius Junior worth £175, and all you have to do, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video. It's my way to give back to all of those people that like the videos, watch the videos, and help me get it out there by commenting and spreading some engagement. So cheers. Now, if you're thinking, well, I don't really have a stack that I can buy. I support Man United. They're too expensive. I'm never going to be able to afford them. Where can I start? To be honest, the best way I would start is, again, Sorare data, but filter by goalkeepers this time. Because remember, your biggest entry requirement when you're working through the strategy is going to be having a goalkeeper that you can play every week. So let's start off by looking at the averages of these players and then finding out, okay, well, of these best average players, who's reasonable in my price range? So Alfred Gomez, he's in my price range, £19. But it doesn't look like he plays. He was not in the last two squads. I'm not going to consider him anymore. Okay, well, working through here then, £35 for Steve Mandanda. It's a little on the high side, but he plays for a good team in Marseille. What about this Maury Dower? Oh, okay, £25. He's a good average player, plays for Clermont-Foot. Oh, now this team might work. So you could think, okay, well, now I'm going to learn about Clermont-Foot, see if they're any good. You can click on the club here. You can find some of their best players, some of the best averages. Oh, okay, well, this guy averages quite well. He's only £7. But at the same time, he did creep up from £4 to £10 now in some stages as well. So maybe I shouldn't be picking, this guy up because he's, spiked in value. Let's wait until he calms down a little bit in value. So again, this is all stuff that's going to come with time. Even someone like me that's put like 2 or 3 years into the game, right? I'm still doing this every week just to find good value pickups. And that's all I can suggest for you. The more you understand the market, the better you'll do on this game. If you do have a strategy like me, where it's like, point one starting today and in 6 months or a year and a half, I think that's really going to help you as well. So if you did find this video useful, I'd appreciate a like, I'd appreciate a subscribe. But besides that, all the best to you. Cheers.